December 18th, Forgotten Snacks. Forgotten Snacks will be coming from some of my 70% Linden chocolate truffle wrappers. These have a foil and a plastic that will work great for my interpretation for this prompt. Hi everyone, Patty here, and let's see what Barbara sent me that's going to work for Forgotten Snacks. She had sent a Panera bag full of wrappers, and one is a cardboard tag. I know I want that. I have added some other items to this tote that I've been using, but I will also look for some of the ribbon. A few items to cover the tag, like the piano paper and some of the packaging material. She has a little note on this bag that said all of the pieces counted as one piece. It is a bag full of perfect little bits and bobs for Dephemerember. I go back and grab that stir stick, but for now I'm contemplating the use of this wrapper. What to cover this tag with? This packaging material won't lay as flat as I would like it to cover the tag. Maybe a little strip of it will work down the side. This piano paper, it has the words down one side that will look good down the tag. The cutouts will look good showing through the tag, and see what's beneath all those colors. Yep, going with this piece and covering it with the paper. Added glue to the tag. It's already shaped and corners rounded, ready to cover. Tried to line the paper up to the tag so the words of the song would go down the side of the tag. I knew once I laid it down onto the glue it was going to be where it was, as this paper is thin and I didn't want it to rip. Cut around the edges and the base is already finished for this tag. I did try to add a strip of the woven packaging material down the one side of the tag where there wasn't any holes or writing. It filled in a void space. Getting that to glue down was tricky, but I added enough glue and put it under a book to dry flat while I continued with my plan for this prompt. I love using Tyvek in my journal making. I make journal covers, flowers, beads, bags, and so many things with Tyvek. So why not make a flower with the wrappers of the Linden chocolates? I looked through some of my painted pieces, which I usually have on my Etsy site, but right now I've only got a few left that weren't my best pieces, and they didn't make it into my shop. They will still work great, but I wasn't going to sell them. Pick a couple colors like a bronze, a teal, in a couple different shades, and one that has a multiple color scheme like where I had cleaned off my brush or something. I already tried to heat these candy wrappers to see what they would do, and I liked the outcome. I did try removing the foil part from the clear plastic, but that wasn't going to work. I even tried to change the color of the clear plastic with some gold alcohol inks, but you couldn't really see it when it heated. I also cut the clear plastic off a couple of the wrappers because that is the part I didn't like when I heated the wrappers. I think I have 5 wrappers and did a little something different to a couple of them. Not that you could tell that in the end, but I was thinking it might add some interest to the piece. I need to cut 5 pieces for each flower. I use 3 pieces of painted Tyvek and 1 or 2 pieces of ribbon. The Tyvek shrinks to almost half of what you start with, so if you want a 2-inch flower, your largest piece of Tyvek needs to be 4 inches. It doesn't have to be a circle, but I do cut off the square edges off each piece. I cut all 4 pieces of the copper or bronze at the same time, rounding off the edges. Your next layer will need to be a bit smaller than your first. Cut as many as you need to make your flowers, rounding the edges, but not worrying about the whole piece being round. I like to lay them out in piles so I can see how many pieces I have for each flower. Next layer of Tyvek will be smaller than the second layer. Even when I layer the pieces, the Tyvek will not be layered on top of each other. I need 5 bases, so I find another piece of the bronze and cut it to sort of match the same size. I don't measure and I don't worry about it if they are all the same size. I have my 5 piles and start looking for other items of interest to add to these flowers. I change the candy wrappers to go both directions, one to be face up with the writing on the wrappers and the black side with the gold. Another pile will have the back with the silver foil up, but again, when I finish these, I can't tell which one is which unless I really tried to inspect them. A final 3rd piece of Tyvek is cut about the size of the metal flower that I will be using in the center of these pieces, maybe 1.5 inches in size. I layered a metal flower with a fabric flower and then a smaller metal flower, all with a brad center to hold all of the Tyvek and pieces together. I found that my brad prongs were too large to fit through the small metal flower I wanted to use for the top. I have a metal hole punch that punches tiny holes into metal for jewelry making. I got this out and enlarged the hole in the small metal flower so I could fit brad through the small metal flower, the fabric flower, and the large metal flower. I also looked for the different mesh ribbon that Barbara from Florida sent me. The black that she wrapped the box into has some purple on the edges with metal. I can cut the metal purple part off or just pull the metal stays out of the edges of the ribbon. I tried both. The purple doesn't look bad with the teal. I just didn't know if it would melt the same as the rest of the piece. Once you hit this flower with the heat gun, it goes fast, and if one piece doesn't melt as fast, then you may have a wrinkled up ball versus a nice flower. But more on the heating when we get to that step. Right now, we are looking to make 5 flowers with 5 to 7 different layers to each flower, 3 pieces of Tyvek and a wrapper and a couple pieces of ribbon. Barbara sent me some great pieces for this project, and I keep going through my stash to see what I can add to them. I cut the black ribbon with the purple edges about 3 to 4 inches long and pull out the metal stays or cut the purple edge off. Oh, what about this lime green netting? That will be a nice layer. Then we have this gorgeous woven material that is black with gold going through the woven piece. Cut a couple of these pieces. Pulled out all of the stays from the ribbon. Start layering the pieces and putting the ribbon between the candy wrapper and a layer of ribbon or mesh. I did this for all 5 flowers, making my layers and putting the pieces together into piles like I want the flowers to be. Now back to the center of the flower. I found the metal punch, punched bigger holes into the small flowers, and layered my brads with the metal flowers and the fabric flower. I used my eyelet setter to cut the hole into the center of the Tyvek flower and piece all of these layers together with the metal flowers and the brad. I tried to use the metal punch, but it wouldn't fit all the way to the center of the flower. If I'm using a button for the center of my flowers, I would hand stitch the button to the center of the Tyvek flower at this stage. This holds the flower together and no glue is needed. The brad is working great to hold all of the layers firmly together. Keep fitting the pieces together and keep them all together with the brad and metal flowers as your center. I probably don't layer any flower the same way or even worry about them all looking alike. The Tyvek is painted on both sides of the sheet and some have a pink background, and I use that to be the center. I don't use much pink in my journals, but this will hardly be seen under the metal flower center. I don't cut out any of the steps or fast forward this process because for some it is probably a new craft project and you have never made Tyvek flowers. I have an ebook on my Etsy site that shows how and what kind of paints to use with Tyvek, and 7 or so projects you can make with this amazing material. I love it, plus I sell the Tyvek in my Etsy shop. I hope you will give it a try. We are ready to use the heat gun now that we have all of our piles sorted out and the metal flower centers attached to the flowers with the brad holding them all together. Now's when I get the swizzle stick out from my Panera bag. This gets hot when you try to heat the flower with the heat gun. In my ebook, I give you all the warnings about doing this project in a well-ventilated room and even wearing a mask if you are melting pieces painted with hazardous material like metallic paints. Move everything from around the area you are going to heat your flower. What's under your desk, like the mat? Can it melt? Things to think about before getting the heat gun out. This process goes fast and you can't be looking at something else or you will have a ball of mess versus a flower. It amazes me every time I make a flower with the Tyvek, and each time you may end up with something you aren't real happy with. But practice does work with making these, and when you see it start to curl up on the edge, move the heat gun and keep hitting the edges and then the center. Flip it over and give it a quick heat to the back. This helps the flower lay flat. The flower is hot, and if you have used metal flowers in the center, they are hot. Be careful. On to the next one. Each one will turn out differently and curl differently, but that is the fun thing with this material. Tell me, how cool is this in the comments? I love to make beads and tassels with my Tyvek to dangle off my journal. After finishing, you can manipulate them a little bit to push some of the pieces back into the center and pull out some parts to be more up front. The silver foil from the candy wrappers was a little overpowering on a couple of them. I add one to the tag I had started in the beginning and put it under a book to try and flatten it more. These flowers would work more for a journal cover than an addition to the pages. I glue the woven packaging material to the tag and try to make that flat, plus add one of the glossy grungy numbers that I purchased from Louisa's shop, layered these all onto the tag, and we have another prompt done. Tried some coral gilding wax on it and rubbed it onto the silver. It didn't do much for the piece. I think I like the silver showing instead. Once these cool, you can't manipulate them or move them. They are solid and pretty much indestructible. Yes, I'm behind, but I go at my speed and I create more pieces than I need because I'm embracing the compartmentalizing and making for this year. Look at the flowers I will have to add to my next journal. Are you keeping up each day with the prompts? I may make the item, but by the time I get the video out and edited, well, I'm a week behind. But I'm not going to stress over it. And as my trade partner said in our last text, for us, Dephemerember 2025 will not end on the 31st. How true is that? Have a great day. Bye now.